Welcome to this report card writing workshop webinar. We're so glad that you're here. We're hoping that this workshop works for both the teacher who report card writing is brand new, as well as the seasoned educator. My name is Katrina Gowett. I'm a student achievement consultant for learning innovation, and my partner Whitney McKinley is also. She isn't joining us for this webinar, but you can contact her with questions you might have. So we have 4 learning goals today. We're going to look at the foundations of report card writing. We're going to look at the ethical frameworks. We're going to develop some skills, and then we're going to try it and apply it. So you might want to think of this as we're going through how do we, as Catholic educators, ensure that generative AI is integrated into our reporting practices in a way that is ethically sound, professionally responsible, and digitally secure for every student? So at the end, I would invite you to think about what are your 3 takeaways, a couple practical strategies, and an important next step for yourself. Okay, so let's look at the foundations. So our foundation document is Growing Success, and you'll notice I've put some links here. So I will share the link to the slide deck for you. This is the landing page from the Ministry of Education, where you can see there's additional addendums to the document as this was released in 2010. There's also a kindergarten addendum here. So if you're a kindergarten teacher, you will want to take a look at that. The goal of Growing Success is to enable every student to reach their potential by acknowledging their unique interests, abilities, and goals. So we really want to make sure that report cards that go home to students and families, that they are clear, they're consistent, and well aligned with what we're doing in our classrooms and what is in the curriculum documents. There are 4 fundamental principles of Growing Success: that consistency, supporting everyone, the purpose, and the communication. So, and this communication happens throughout the year, not just with report card writing or report cards that go home, but with phone calls and digital communication, as well as your progress report, term 1 and term 2. So understanding the terms is really important, that you know what assessment, evaluation, and reporting are. You can review these if they are unfamiliar to you. For grades 1 to 12, all report cards have learning skills. Now, this is a separate reporting. So it's really important that we are evaluating them separately from academic grades to provide specific achievement information. So something like homework completion should not be in a curriculum comment. It should be in the learning skills comment. There are 6 learning skill categories: responsibility, organization, independent work, collaboration, initiative, and self-regulation. And these are marked as excellent, good, satisfactory, or needs improvement. If you would like additional resources on these learning skills, we have a wide variety available to you through the Deep Learning slide deck resources for elementary and secondary. So many of these align really well with those transferable skills in Ontario. There's also, of course, the academic achievement portion of the report card. And this is a standard province-wide guide that's used to make consistent judgments about the quality of a student's learning. And there are a couple different formats. So for grades 1 to 6, you'll be using letters, A, B, C, D. And for grades 7 to 12, you use percentage marks. Now the levels of achievement, so level 3, that is the provincial standard, and level 4, that's surpassing the provincial standard. If you use an R in grades 1 to 8, that is achievement below level 1. And indicates that remediation strategies are required. This is something you must have a conversation with your administrator about, and of course, an ongoing conversation with parents or guardians. If a student in grades 9 to 12 has below 50%, this indicates that the credit has not been granted and that they will need more support to retake it or what have you. So again, conversation with parents and guardians before this shows up on the report card, and then what supports can be offered to help that student. And then the code I, that applies for grades 1 to 10, and that's insufficient evidence. This again needs to be a conversation with your administrator, and should be something around with parents and guardians. This is often given because of absence or ongoing illness that the student just has not been present for the learning. So a really strong and effective report card comment includes 3 parts. So we have strengths, the evidence to support those strengths, and a next step of what the student can do to reach the next level. And it should be actionable advice that the student and the parent and guardian can work on together. It's also really important that we maintain a professional, encouraging, and clear tone, and we avoid the jargon that sometimes we are prone to include in our comments. So this is an example of a grade 8 geography report card comment. The first paragraph represents one unit, and the second one, or strands, and the second one represents the other strand that was completed by the class. It follows the strengths, evidence, and next steps. So this could be an example you look to. Now, professional judgment is incredibly important, and this is really empowering to you, the educator. So you're the expert in the classroom, and your assessment is based on that professional judgment of the most consistent and most recent evidence of student learning. And this is a really important pillar to growing success because we really do want to see that growth of students. So ensuring that you have these artifacts, it could be reflections, it could be anecdotal notes, it could be a student's portfolio. All of those items are really helpful with really explaining the why behind any of the grades or comments you assign a student on their report card. Now, generative AI and report card writing. So this is really where the majority of our time is going to be spent, and we're hoping that this will be helpful for you. You may want to pause this video as we go along and try out some of these things. So that's the beauty of a recording, is that you can pause, try, and then play again. So we do have guidance in our WCDSB Gen AI guidelines for educators. So when you have this slide deck, you can click on the button there and be guided to that document. And so in that guidance, essentially it says, like, AI can be used to draft your initial comments, but you must review them yourselves, you must modify them, and make sure that they really reflect the individual student. It's important to remember that communications are incredibly important with our families, our students, and whatever we're communicating to those people, it needs to be accurate. And so we, as the teacher, as the human, we take full responsibility for whatever that communication is. So it's, again, the use of AI is just a draft. So there are some non-negotiable protocols that you must follow should you decide to use generative AI. Again, this is just an option. You do not need to use it. You can, many of you will have tried and true methods of writing report cards that work really well for you. But if you do choose to use AI, the number one is we must protect student privacy. And that means no student names, work examples, or individual assessment data. We're not going to upload documents about a student. That is a breach of privacy and creates a privacy breach. The second, we've already spoken about, that professional validation. So you are the final human at the end of that comment. And so that AI generated content, this is just a starting point. It should never be the final. We also need to make sure that we have that substantial modification. So it could be modified in Aspen, or you could have it in a secure document, like a Word document or a Google Doc, where you take that draft comment, pull it into the document, and that's where you change out the student's name and any personal information. A helpful shortcut is using Control H as a find and replace. So you're likely familiar with Control F to find a word in a document, Control H, that will find all instances of that word. So in this case, I'm typing in square bracket, student name, square bracket, and then I'm replacing it with Mary. So anywhere on that page, it's going to replace it all at once. So this can really save a lot of time with deleting or backspacing that information. Now we have a number of Waterloo Catholic guiding documents for elementary and secondary that you can review. You'll note that there's a link to this one pager, and it outlines, it's very similar for elementary and secondary, and it outlines exactly how you can and cannot use AI. So we'd encourage you to take a look at that. Now it's really important when you're using generative AI, prompt engineering. Prompt engineering can be the difference between a great output, a good output, and a terrible output. And so when we're communicating with generative AI, a computer, a robot, we need to make sure that we're speaking to it in ways that it understands so we get the best output. There are two different ways that I typically write my prompts. So I might do a micro prompt. That's often how I write. I would write report card comments as a micro prompt. And that's where it's incredibly detailed instructions to make sure that it's getting the output that I need. And that might have examples. It might say things like, write it in parent-friendly language, don't use you or I, all of those little pieces that will make for a great output. You might also use for different uses, so a macro prompt. And that is a really brief, focused instruction. It's quick. Sometimes the output can be great. Other times it's not as good. So an example for report card writing might be write a learning skill comment next step for a student who struggles to participate in small group work. And then you can see what that output is and modify it as you need. Okay, so we really like having a framework, just like when you went to Teachers College and there was a framework for a lesson plan, you can use something for writing a prompt for AI models. We think about prompt, role, be explicit, and what are the parameters. You want to think of yourself like a director that's going to, maybe you're directing a movie or a TV show, and you're trying to give the actors or the AI model all of the explicit details that are going to be really successful and maybe give you a great output in the end. So if you think of yourself like a director, then that can be really helpful. We also need to remember that whatever the output comes, we need to edit it. So we need to evaluate it. We need to determine if it's accurate. We need to identify bias, misinformation, and then we need to transform it. So we need to modify what it says. And in this case, you want to think of yourself as the video editor. So splicing, replacing, all of those components to make sure that the final output is exactly what you want. And be bold with asking an AI model what you want. Be bossy. Previously, we might have said be polite, but you will get better responses with being bossy and being really, really specific. Okay, so let's talk about our approved tools now. We do have approved AI tools. We have Microsoft Copilot, we have Google's Gemini, which was just approved recently. These are classified as yellow apps. So it means, yes, you can use it, but with conditions, limiting conditions. And so you'll see these over here. Make sure that you are not putting any private information in, which we've already discussed. Understand that there are limitations with using generative AI, bias, hallucinations, inaccurate information. All of these things are what we need to look for. And then, of course, modify. And then it is, of course, the responsibility of the human user, so you, that the information is accurate. And then it is also important to know that these tools do change rapidly, and sometimes it can look different from day to day. So what I'm going to show you today might look different than what you're using tomorrow. So if you're looking for Microsoft Copilot, you just need to go to the My Apps list and you'll see it listed there. You can use the search bar or you can scroll down. We also have a new button, an AI button, and that's going to list all the AI approved tools that we have right now. So that might be another handy option. So when you log in, it is essential that you are logged in with your WCSB credentials. You can see here that I can see my profile picture. I can see this green shield. If I click on it, it's going to tell me I've enterprise data protection, and it applies to this chat. Now, when I talked about micro prompt, this is what I'm talking about. So a learning skill prompt template is right here. When you have the slide deck, you can copy and paste this in and just substitute in what you would like. So it's kind of like a fill in the blank. This can be a lot of work though, right? So you can see that there is a lot of detail, but it does produce a pretty good output. So I would take this, copy it, paste it into Copilot, and see how it does. Same with a curriculum prompt. So you can see here, I have quite a few of fill in the blank. So I would insert my grade, what subject it is, how many characters I have. That's a really helpful feature when using AI models. Then I can put in my strand and unit. Is it a he or a she? And then I'm structuring it with strength, strength, next step. And within these strengths, I'm going to also include evidence of achievement. Okay, now I just want to give a little demonstration. So please feel free to stop and start the recording so that you can follow along. So I'm going to access Copilot from the My Apps page, and mine is right here. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to open up a new window, and I'm going to double check that I have the green shield right here. Now I already have a filled in prompt. So I took this and I did fill it in already so that you can see it in a little bit faster manner. So I'm going to paste it in here. I've written in what the grade was, the strand was, the strengths, as well as evidence of the learning. Okay, so I'm going to press go on that. Okay, and here is my output, the draft comment in people and the environments, the role of government, he. So this is where I'm going to take it into my doc, substitute in the student's name. Now I wouldn't ever start it off this way, so I would change that. He clearly explains the rights and responsibilities and creates a scratch animation about the right to vote. He assesses how governments, including Indigenous, address First Nations drinking water and presents effectively. So this is okay, but I don't love this comment. So I can come back and say, I need sound warmer and be parent-friendly language. Okay, so I'm reprompting it. Now I could likely get a better output if I attach the growing success document here. So here we go. It's redone it. So he shows a solid understanding as he explains key rights and responsibilities. I would probably add in of Canadians. He creates a clear scratch animation about the right to vote and presents thoughtfully on how governments, including Indigenous governments, address First Nations drinking water issues. I would add in. He continues to grow as he learns to ask meaningful questions to guide his inquiries. I would change this. So I might come back and say, I need you to write a next step addressing this. So you can see that this is truly a draft that I really do need to do some modifications. So, and I might need to go back to my initial prompt. There's clearly something missing here that it's not giving me the output I'm looking for. Okay, so now next I'm going to show you something that will make this, I think, a whole lot easier. The next tool that we're going to look at is Google Gemini. So Google Gemini was just approved in December of 2025. You can find more information about it on our system announcements. Again, you can find it by searching or by looking under the AI tab. And this has similar characteristics to knowing that you're logged in with your WCSB credentials. And again, that is crucial. You must be logged in with our WCSB credentials so that you are protected in this environment. It does work differently than a private account. So you'll see I put in a chat and it showed me at the bottom that my chats aren't being used to improve the model. I can see that I'm logged in up here at the top. And so those let me know that I've done it the right way. Now, what is really interesting about Google Gemini is that we can have things called gems. And these are specific chats that have been that have information about a specific topic. So what I have here is a report card writing chat. So this is something I created. It's is released out in system announcements, and you can access the information there. And I've shared it with anyone from Waterloo Catholic, but loaded into this is all the specifics and documents around writing report cards here at Waterloo Catholic in Ontario. So it includes growing success. It includes the checklist that was just released this week in system announcements. It includes those memos and the information that you're going to need, even Aspen help Q&A. So it's going to draw from the outputs are going to draw from these documents and give you much better outputs. So, and you can build your own gems. So we will be running another session about that. You can think of it as a specialist, kind of the difference between having to do that big long prompt in Copilot. You might compare that to a supply teacher you've never had in your classroom before, where you have to write, much more expansive plans, as opposed to the supply teacher that has been in for you many, many times, knows your school, knows the classroom, knows the routines, even knows, the way that you teach. So it's the difference between that, the amount of instruction you need to give and the amount of prompting. So you can find that announcement here. Just click on this. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of trial. So I want you to open the AI report card writing assistant. So you can either go to this previous slide and grab the link, or right here, and it's going to open it. You'll know you're there because it has the title. It gives a little description about it. And here, this is the chat I'm going to be using. So let's go here. I have a sample prompt. So write a term 1 learning skill next step for Chris Robin about participating more in whole class discussion. Okay, so I'm going to take what I copied over the prompt. I'm going to put it into the chat and send it. So now you can tell that it's looking through those documents. And what it has told me now is that WCDSB policy protects student privacy. Please remove student names or ID numbers and resubmit. So because I put the student's name, Chris Robin, in, it will not do the comment. So this is a great way to help us do best practices around protecting student identity and information. Okay, so let's go to the second task. Second task is write a learning skill next step comment for a kid who wanders during direct instruction. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and bring it over. Okay, I'm in a new chat. I'm going to paste it in and see what my result is. So you can see it's asking for a little bit more information. It wants to know how long it should be, and then what learning skill I'm hoping to address with this. And then it reminds me that this is a draft. So it really needs a little bit more information. This was too vague to get a decent output. So it's redirecting me. Okay, let's go to the next task. So this one, you can see it's a little bit more detailed. So this, in comparison to the last one, is more of a micro prompt. Still not nearly as long as the ones we used for Copilot. Okay, I've pasted it in. And now you can see it's reviewing. It would be looking through the documents that are preloaded in this chat and the instructions. Okay, and the nice thing about this is it's giving me options. So I gave it enough information. It's giving me a placeholder where I'm going to put my student's name. I can look at them and decide which one best fits my student. And sometimes it might be, okay, well, I like this half of the sentence and I like that half of the sentence, and I'm going to meld them together. So this is just one way in which you can use this learning, the Gemini report card writing assistant to help you out. Another important thing to notice is what features we can see when we're using it. So it may look different on your end. For me, it tells me what sources were used. I can see that we have, it's indicating I'm logged in accurately. I can see that I could actually listen to the output instead of reading it. That's really helpful to me. I could export it to a doc. That could be really helpful as well. And I can see the documents that it referred to here. If I go back here, you'll notice I can see this button sources. Hopefully you are able to as well. But these are the documents that are in the background that it's pulling from. And you can see each of these little links is indicating which one it's from. Okay, so you should be able to view these. And it gives you a little bit more confidence in knowing where it's being pulled from, that it is more accurate. Of course, you need to be reviewing and modifying before this is put into the report card. We really want to emphasize that, again, I sound like a broken record, but this AI generated content is draft only. So please make sure you exercise your professional judgment to ensure accuracy and integrate your own pedagogical expertise. It's also important to remind everyone that we have frameworks, both our Catholic and legal frameworks, that we must follow. As Catholics, we have a call to stewardship. We are guided by the dignity of the human person and the common good, and we want to make sure that technology serves the sacredness of the student and it's protecting, not causing harm or danger. As well, we have professional integrity. So we have our OCT professional standards. You can click there to see a link. We also have Ontario College of Teachers Act, specifically Regulation 437 and 97 about professional misconduct. If you want to see exactly what those say, you can head to those links. And then we also have MFIPA and the Education Act regarding student data. So all of these, there are consequences for when we don't protect our students. You know, in our classrooms and our schools, we do a really good job of protecting our students' physical, mental, spiritual well-being, but we also need to consider their digital footprint, that we may inadvertently cause harm down the road. So please keep those things in mind. And then, of course, there are checklists and documents that need to be followed from your administrator and Waterloo Catholic District School Board in general. Now, I just want to come back to this critical inquiry question. What are your 3 takeaways from this session? Do you have a couple of strategies that you might want to use? And what's one important next step? These might translate into who and how you might share some of this learning with others today. Maybe it's just forwarding on that announcement about the Google Gemini report card editor and thinking about ways that you can use it, right? You can take comments from your comment bank and polish them up. You can take a report card you can take a curriculum expectation from the ministry's website and have it make comments for you. You can have it help you with some tricky next steps that you might have. And we often do this with our teaching partners and our colleagues, but we can invite AI to the table as well during those discussions and talks. We do have a number of resources on StaffNet. So I would encourage you to head to our Innovation StaffNet page. This is where you can find our contact information, but then also we have a page for artificial intelligence. These are all our portfolio areas, so please feel free to explore them. this one on artificial intelligence, we have specifically pinned up near the top of it, report card writing resources. Here's our site on artificial intelligence that is linked in the innovation site, and you'll see you can find guideline documents, you can find the podcast, you can find a report card writing playlist where it has documents, webinars, information, as well as upcoming support. So if there's something you're interested in and you'd like to register, you can do that here. We also have some of our approved apps highlighted. So you can find posters, all kinds of resources here to help you with not only your report card writing using AI, as well as bringing this into your professional practice. If you would like additional news from the innovation team, right to your inbox, you can subscribe for our new newsletter. Again, just search this in StaffNet and you'll find the announcement. And we would really love to hear how you or your students or your families are using artificial intelligence. We would love to be able to share these use cases in the newsletter and on StaffNet and to the system. We want to know about how you might be using AI to really enhance learning, free up time for yourself. Maybe it's a workflow that you found really helpful. Maybe it's report card writing, anything. We would love to hear from you. It can be super short, but just, really sharing the ways in which it has been helpful to you. We would love to hear from you. Again, thank you very much for tuning in today and taking the time. We really appreciate it. Please let us know if you have any questions. We'd be very happy to answer them. And you can see our email addresses right there. Take care and happy writing.